already surrendered to a whole load of all
true.
those things you just mentioned.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday. I'm Liz Frerichs, and this is my husband Evan.
Hello.
And
Hello?
Sorry. It's the look you were giving me.
That was my hello look.
Okay, anyway.
You haven't seen that before?
Yeah, wide-eyed. That's great. Anyway, we're so glad that you're here with us today. And as you guys know, this week we are talking about the basics, the CSCs, being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete.
Yeah, the foundation of this podcast and our lives.
Exactly. Yeah, these are principles that as we have applied them, have completely changed our lives. I can't even tell you how many different ways. It's like an everyday, every moment. You can apply these things at any moment when things are going crazy, and suddenly the whole landscape
And
changes.
even before they're going crazy.
Well, yes.
But,
hopefully you're applying them before then too. But
yeah, it is. They all sound so kind of subtle and small, and they are. And I think that's kind of the magic of them.
yeah,
And I mean, we call the show Epic Every Day, and it's really. They're epic ideas, and they're counterintuitive, and God even says the wisdom of the world, or my wisdom is foolishness to the world, and this is one of those things where it's like, really?
right.
Try it.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Okay, so today, since it's a Tuesday, we're talking about surrender. And surrender is one of those kind of catchphrase almost things.
You hear
like
it a
those
lot.
platitudes where you're like, yeah, right, surrender. Like, how do you practically do that? And what does that actually look like? And why does that make things so much better? My Tai Chi instructor likes to talk about how surrender is kind of like the spiritual equivalent to relaxation. And how if you are a hose and you
Like a garden hose.
Yes, like a garden hose.
Not leggings or something.
Fine, whatever. So if you're a garden hose and you're full of all these knots, the water can't get through. And surrender is the same way. If we are not surrendered in different areas of our lives, the Holy Spirit can't get through. And we don't want that, because we want to have the Holy Spirit working in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, as Christians, the Holy Spirit is what transforms everything in our lives.
That's right.
Redeems moment by moment. So...
And I think it's the kind of thing that once you, like maybe even a non-Christian or a new Christian, that it sounds kind of bizarre because we're so used to living our own life and being our own, Lord or whatever. But it's one of those things like if you get a little bit of it, it starts to make a little bit of sense. And the more you get, the more sense it makes. Letting the Spirit move, really. And
right, well, because we do not have a third-person perspective on the nature of reality, as I like to talk about.
Yeah, we don't.
Yes, this is one of my soapbox things that I really love. Like, I love that God is transcendent. I love that He can see everything about reality and that He can tell us what's true, because it's so easy to get caught up in lies. That's actually what my blog post is about this week. Like, you get caught up in the lies that our culture tells us, the lies that like marketing people tell us, the lies that our friends tell us are, intentional or unintentional, the lies we tell ourselves, the lies that we're raised in our families, like there are lies every which way. So the fact that we have a God who knows what's true and can reveal what's true to us is so transformative.
Mm-hmm. And one of these upside down ideas that we need to get accustomed to is that we really are powerless, and so because of that, we're already surrendered to a whole load of all those things you just mentioned. Like we come out as babies and we start surrendering to just the things we learn. We're giving over to them. I mean, we can't really help it. It's not like you should, as a baby or a child, kind of fight against it. You can't. But then at some point, when you become a Christian, you're moving that. You're shifting surrender allegiances to the Creator of the universe, and that whatever.
Right. Well, and kind of like you were talking about with a fight, surrender is that we do talk about like waving the white flag, that you have fought as hard as you can fight and this is the end of it, but we want to surrender before that happens because that's when God can do things in our lives, when we, kind of have that open hand and say, "Okay, Lord, I can't fix this situation." Because frankly, at least I have found this to be true in my life, there's not a lot that you can do about many of these situations. I mean, you do have elements of control in your own life, and there are things you're responsible for. But
sure. I mean, that's part of the image of God is our ability to make choices.
Right. I'm not saying you can't make choices.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I think we're saying similar things. I mean, you're choosing to surrender to this or that.
Right.
Why not have it be the creator of truth?
Whether it's intentional or unintentional.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's the tricky part. We might. It's an illusion of control.
Yeah.
In the world, but it's not real control.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I love about this idea of surrender, because when you give it over to the Lord, He then can do whatever is best, which I have found in my own life. I do not know what is best. Like, even my perfect scenario, sometimes there's things that I don't see about it, or who knows. I don't have eyes for the better.
I wonder if that is, I mean, that's a mindset, that's a mature mindset that realizing how limited I am in my understanding or my power. And I guess different people come to that at different times. I heard Ravi Zacharias talk about this, a man who, and I just remember this little bit, but he was a man from a Middle Eastern religion. And the powerful thing to him was he'd already, I guess, seen his own weakness and depravity, but didn't really know what the solution was. But then when a Christian was talking to him about surrender in the gospel, the thing that was powerful to him was in surrender you win, and in dying you live. And that's what sold him. He's like, I'm in. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and I think Americans struggle with that. We don't really see it that way. It's because we're so into that control illusion, the illusion of power.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're such an individualistic society to be like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You're gonna do it by yourself. Versus this, like, okay, admitting that you are powerless, that is so hard to do. It's so hard to say, I can't fix this. And to be able to say, okay, Lord, I want you to fix this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like it makes you less of an American or something, but
less of an adult.
Yeah, but not really. I heard another interesting story about surrender and just power in general, the ability to be productive. It's an interview with this woman named Candace Poole. She owns 2 jewelry companies. I think she's an entrepreneur. She's married to Casey Neistat.
Ah, okay.
She was being interviewed, and she was talking about, because she's not really a designer, but sort of, I mean, she designs jewelry. Her company does anyway. And she's saying when she gets stuck, she can either just stay late at work and like pound it out or whatever, or she says she's experienced this a couple times. Go get a massage, and then the ideas just come, because she's letting go of control. She's not in the office. She's, she's committed to be there for that half hour, whatever it is. I mean, I guess you could leave prematurely, but it's a form of freedom, actually, that surrender to the beast, to the daily grind beast, whatever it is. It works in a lot of areas of life.
Yeah, definitely. I've experienced that with writing, like being able to just, I can either try to force my characters to do whatever they're going to do, or I can take a break and then just see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and even today, with thinking of this podcast is a new endeavor for us, and I've been in my walk after work. It's like during the day, I'm like, oh, I should think of something. What are we going to talk about? And then during that time, it feels. Sometimes I'm like, I should just either work some more, or maybe I should just go home early or something. But I don't. I take time to do the walk, and it could look like time wasted, but then I'm jotting things down while I've got a little paper and a pen while I'm walking around,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and it's been pretty neat. And that's a form of surrender. I'm surrendering what makes sense to me in my schedule. If I was gonna get 100 things done today, I wouldn't take an hour-long walk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely that idea of, okay, I'm giving up my power and letting the Lord, do whatever. Just creating space, I think, is so huge.
Yeah, because God's not gonna barge in and push you aside and be like, here you go, and write down the answers to your test or whatever, or get your work done for you. I mean, he lets us do things the way that makes sense to us until, he's very patient.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the verses that I was thinking of, there were a couple that came up for me when I was thinking about surrender. One is Romans 12:1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. And I was just thinking about how it's a joy in a lot of ways. Just that, because you think about worship, at least for me, I think of worship as something that is enjoyable,
Yeah.
And so when we're surrendering, there is kind of that joy that comes with it when you give something up to the Lord. I was thinking about Brother Lawrence, who wrote Practicing the Presence of God. I mean, his book is incredible. If you have not read that book, go check it out. But he talks about how he tried to turn everything into an act of worship by giving this moment, this task to the Lord. Even he worked in the kitchens, I believe, at a monastery.
I think he hated it.
Yeah. But he still would be like, all right, stirring this thing for Jesus. And so being able to practice, I'm surrendering, and pushing into that, through that, it pushed him in further and further into God's presence.
Yeah.
And so there was joy there. And that's something that I have definitely experienced. Even when I'm stressed out and upset about something, like we were talking about yesterday, being anxious, and being able to just stop and give it to the Lord, completely changes the landscape. You go from this place of despair to being able to be either peace or joy, somewhere on that spectrum.
Or less despair, because sometimes it takes a lot of surrender.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on what's going on, it can be pretty hard.
Yeah. I like that Brother Lawrence example. I came up with a list of, because sometimes oh yeah, okay, I agree, we need to surrender, but what is it we're supposed to be surrendering? So these are just some. I'm sure there's a million things, but I mean, we can surrender our thoughts. They're powerful and they can sweep us away.
Oh yeah.
And we can't even handle that. I know I can't sometimes. Whether
take
it's
every thought captive.
Yeah. Whether it could be a lie of any kind, it could be a fantasy that you don't need to go into. It could be just a daydream that's, it sucks you out of the moment and in your real life. We surrender power. That's a hard one, but we can surrender other people because we can't control them.
Yeah.
Our time, our money, our preconceptions. So if we hear a new idea, I've got a friend who, it's kind of just the way he thinks, but he'll read a book or an idea is presented and he immediately rejects it. And then thinks about it some more and maybe he'll accept it. And so it's okay, I mean, that could be a little bit more streamlined, but it's a thought process. But so it just, or, we don't have a total grasp on the truth. And so if we think we do, we're crippling ourselves. So we could surrender that idea.
Yeah, you can't learn what you already know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're glad you guys were with us today. And we hope that you have an awesome Tuesday. And since it's Tuesday, let's all focus on being surrendered.
That's right. Yeah. Try to use your, if you get triggered or stressed out, maybe try to come back to surrendered for a moment.
Yeah. Unkink that hose.
That's right.
All right. If you guys would like to get in contact with us, we'd love to hear from you. Thoughts, suggestions for topics, how the CSCs have affected your life.
Yeah, check out our Facebook group if you want to do that. Maybe get to know some other people who are trying to explore some of the same ideas for maybe the first time. It could be exciting. We're also on Twitter. Liz's handle is @elizfrerichs. That's Frerichs with an F as in Frank. I'm sorry, I don't know. Sometimes when I spell it for people at work, they think I'm saying Serix with an S, but it's Frerichs.
And Evan's handle is @kind-of-lying.
Yep. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening.